Writer number 2 tonight of Linda Heuring's book, A Woman Walked Into the Bar. The Irish Times wrote, character creation, vivid scene setting, humor, and authentic dialogue are some of the strengths of this excellent short story collection. Confession. I logged Linda's submission when I received it, but I didn't read it for a long, long time because I hated the title. And I made assumptions about its content and its likelihood of appealing to a Waterline audience. Lesson learned again. Hate it, those lessons you learn again and again. Once I started reading, I was intrigued and then very intrigued, and I think you will be too. Linda Heuring.
Well, there's water, and there's water. Everybody hear me all right? There's water, and there are fish in this story, but it's not Eve. Nibbling at the bloodstains. This girl moves like she's underwater, practicing for some mermaid show at Wiki Wachi or something. What I really want to do is grab my sunflower seeds and water bottle off the counter and run. Let Mermaid Girl keep my $18.21 in change, put it in the pocket of that massive company smock hanging on her pointed shoulders like a poncho, and later buy a six-pack or some milk for her kids, and never make a peep if the cops come asking. Here I stand, though, waiting, watching, because she reminds me of my daughter, Melissa, a rescuer, the weight of the world on a narrow frame. There's a cross dangling from the chain around her neck, and not a plain one either, but one of those Catholic ones with Jesus stuck on there, like that's how he'd like to be remembered, all nailed up and nearly naked. No, this girl would run after me, leave a note with my complete description in case the poor woman comes back for her change. My silver blue-haired grandma would have handed over exact change, paying for a dozen aspirin with a nickel and 2 pennies, and slipping the brown and yellow tin into her pocketbook. I got the empty one. I packed it with dimes. I was 6. She was 60. I'm that combined, 66 going on nothing, if I don't keep moving. She waits for me to stick out my palm, and I raise my right arm but substitute my left, a kid playing games. She counts with her mouth just like Melissa's husband, Brandon, did. And 20. She smiles and bumps the register closed. Bottle sweat stings the rope burn on my right palm. I open the door with my hip and set off down to where my skiff is moored on the bank of the Okeechobee waterway. The air tastes like asphalt, as if the squiggly heat waves from the pavement coat my tongue when I inhale. I find a patch of shade under a trio of Christmas palms. The humidity holds me close, comforts me. The palms rustle from a breeze far above my head. At my nursery, only a few miles away by water, rows of palms rustle. Rows of palms planted a year apart alternately catch the wind like this when it rises off the big lake. Will Melissa stand there today, listening to the wind play their fronds like harp strings? I dump seeds in my mouth directly from the tube. I haven't eaten since lunch yesterday. I need salt, water. I chew the seeds to pulp. The pickup shows up on the horizon, fuzzy and shimmering. I step behind a tree trunk even though its diameter is half mine. Age has spread my hips. My shoulders are broad beneath my work shirt. My sun hat, rolled no bigger than a bratwurst, is snug in a pants pocket. I pat my waistband out of habit, but my gloves aren't there. They are on the bottom of the canal, somewhere west of Lake Okeechobee, where I dropped them overboard last night. I figure catfish are picking at the frayed canvas, nibbling at the bloodstains. Mine, his. The story problem is this. If 200 pounds of flesh falls 15 feet at the end of 115 feet of rope on a 4-inch pulley, how much friction will it generate? Enough to burn through a pair of heavy-duty work gloves and rip a bloody trench into an old woman's hands. My boat is where I left it. I yank the stake from the scrub and carry the line down the bank. It's the same rope practically as I use in the shop. 12 strands woven together, not too much stretch, abrasion resistant. To the arborist, it's a rope. To the mariner, it's a line. But they serve the same purpose. They tie up things you want to stay put, and they keep your loved ones safe. That was the plan anyway. Just after 2, I reached the Caloosahatchee River connecting the waterway to the Sound, and I motor past the Fort Myers bridges and into a nearly full marina, a world away from the lake that was my home. Here, fancy trawlers with perfect canvas sport flat-screen TVs. Behind me are $1 million condos no one's buying, even though a flapping banner says they're now only $359,000. 10 out of 200 are sold, I read somewhere. It's the market, supposedly. That's what Brandon blamed for his failure in real estate, not his drinking, certainly, or that look in his eye that contradicted that cat-tooth smile he whitened with overnight trays from the CVS. Couldn't tell by my business. People never stopped wanting more shade, more oranges, more bougainvillea. Brandon had no eye for landscaping. No, his eye was on the brass ring, or more likely the belly ring, barely visible under the silk blouses of our biggest corporate buyer. Meeting clients and marketing was what I hired him to do, but as much as Melissa prayed otherwise, he was really a meat market kind of guy. If he could just make a go of it, she told me, get his confidence back, he might not need. She twisted a strand of hair into a corkscrew. You know, those others. There was a parade of them, and as each one was discovered, I saw Melissa square her shoulders, set her jaw, and narrow her eyes in determination. Melissa could coax a neglected seedling to sprout leaves or an abused kitten to eat from her hand. She tried her magic on Brandon, but unlike the seedling that grew to shower her with peaches, or the cat who dropped field mice at her feet, Brandon kept up his nefarious ways. It was me who tired of waiting. I watched her shoulders grow thin, her eyes draw back into the sockets, and that determined jaw tremble more often than not. Melissa saw it as her personal failure and tried harder. Not me. 2 men work the condo grounds. One on a stand-up mower spins circles around an azalea. Another sprays impatience with a hose in full sun. I step off the brick walkway, then stop. Not my crew, not by a long shot. The harbor master's nose is in a book. Cold air catches my tonsils unaware. I cough. What can I do you for? He lays his book spine up. That fresh coffee? Help yourself. He stretches, a man in no hurry. I sip coffee. The bulletin board has snapshots of men with fish, business cards, boats for sale, and one for rent. Minnows swim in a bait tank. I survey a wall of lures. 5 reels of line are mounted underneath, a red reel, just like mine. A girl in a bikini walks by as I head outside. Her sarong is tied low on her hips, and a belly ring sparkles against her tan. The buyer had a belly ring just like that, but a pale and puffy stomach. Did she sneak back in last night to get the rest of her clothes? Or did she pretend nothing happened, make believe her lover's mother-in-law hadn't found them pressed together on a bale of burlap in the barn, Brandon's white butt lit purple in the bug zapper's light? I tossed her abandoned shoe, a black Jimmy Choo with silver stars, into the baler with Brandon before I encased him in the net like a Christmas tree headed for the top of an Escalade. Let him sober up, hanging from the boom of my truck, an evildoer captured by Spider-Man. When he saw his philandering self, naked, hanging 15 feet above the ground in a tree net, maybe he'd morph into a new man. I squint in the sun. A man in a green shirt waves a clipboard and points a pencil stub at an ailing palm tree. There's a load of mulch piled around the trunk. Between the heat and trapped moisture, it will die from the ground up. The workers tamp the mulch, compacting it. No, 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 Clipboard man kneels and pulls mulch away from the trunk. I wonder who made that first mulch volcano, I say. He looks up and shakes his head. The base of the tree is exposed. It's wet and soft. I prod the bark with my fingers, looking for any telltale sign of the white wafer from Gandoderma butt rot. It's felling palms all over Florida, and there's no cure. Looks like it's just heat and moisture, I say. No Gandoderma. I sit back on my heels and I look him in the eye. She'll need some looking after, I say, and the crepe myrtles could use an artist. Done this before, he asks. I nod, but it doesn't come close to how I feel. It's all I know. It's what I love. It's all I have left. 10 an hour to start, no benefits, steady, more if you've got the time. I nod again. I've got paperwork in the truck. He stops when I shake my head. I'd rather not. An old grandmother like me prefers cash. He looks past me to his workers digging at another palm, then back. I see him take in my chopped off hair, the lines the sun has sketched into my face and neck, and the slick red line across my palm. Okay, abuelita, as long as you didn't kill someone. He smiles. I plant my hat on my head. I smile from my personal shade. At least not on purpose, I say. He laughs a big belly laugh, fans himself with his clipboard. Tomorrow, 7 sharp, you set the priorities. We shake hands. I wince. He tosses me a pair of gloves. I grab a fistful of soil and test it for moisture. It smells of the ocean and sunlight and fish. I tuck the new gloves in my waistband and visit the harbor master. By morning, my skiff will be transformed into a dinghy. A fresh stripe of paint just below her gunwale to match my rented sailboat will disguise it for now. At dusk, a bartender squirts Cuervo Gold into a blender at a boardwalk bar. I hadn't counted on Brandon getting sick and choking on the tequila and whatever else his stomach heaved up. I let out the rope to bring him down fast and steady, but he thrashed around and I lost control. He gained momentum. The rope ran through the pulley and across my palms. It didn't stop until he hit the concrete floor. The net stretched tight against his skin, and a 4.5-inch Jimmy Choo spike heel sunk deep in the middle of his chest. The sky is red. From the cockpit, I see whirlpools of surface-feeding fish. An ice cube in my palm coats the burn. Yesterday, I was the boss. Today, I'm the little grandmother. Tomorrow, maybe I'm the mother Melissa forgives, the one who forced her to turn a nurturing eye on herself for once. The tide tugs at my moorings, but I won't escape to the sea. I'm anchored to the land as securely as these lines wrap the dock cleats. My roots run deep. My rhizomes, underground runners, will take nourishment from the soil until they're strong enough to surface once more.